We have red flags. There's a warning for content creators.
Since the beginning of
I don't know
social
what
media,
it's gonna be, but
creators
we
have
just gotta
measured
figure
their
it out.
success against their follower count. Assuming you're a creator watching this, if I was to ask you your goal, you'll probably answer with a follower or subscriber count that you are aiming towards. Is it 10,000, 100,000, 1 million followers? This is your dream. With that fame comes a fun lifestyle, shiny plaques, fortune, or at least it used to. We have reached the death of the follower. A subscriber, a follower, it simply doesn't matter anymore, and that is making it harder than ever to get consistent views and especially hard to make any money out of content. But the good news is there is a solution. A strategy that you can use starting today to turn your content into a sustainable, profitable career. But how do I know this? Well, I've been there and done it many times. I'm Jordan
Also, do it for
Schwarzenberger, and as the
fun,
manager of the
by the way.
Sidemen, we've launched several
If you treat it as a job, it'll always be a job. If you treat it like it's for fun and whatnot, everything else will just follow with it.
successful brands and generated millions in revenue together. But don't worry, you don't have to be as big as the Sidemen to make this work. I know what you're thinking. In fact, a smaller audience, believe it or not, could actually mean more money. So let's get into it by first understanding the most important part of this whole thing, why the follower is dead.
Like followers
This is
in
Think Like a
general,
Creator,
or
the show that pulls back the curtain on the creator economy so you can make content your full-time career. In the olden days, you used to have to select what you wanted to watch. You would pick a video, and if you enjoyed it, you'd like and subscribe to that creator, and you'd be fed more and more of that specific creator. That's now changed. Jack Conte, the founder of Patreon, explains it best here.
As a fan, I'm like signing up to vote for what I want to see more of in the future. And that's kind of like how the internet was sort of organized for many years. You know, this concept of followers, like where you have a feed of people you follow, like forget about that. You almost can't reach your followers anymore as a creator.
But why the sudden change? One word, TikTok. The app blew up with the new For You page, a new kind of algorithm designed to show you content based on what it thinks that you'll like. And to be fair, it probably knows you better than you know yourself.
which is
Jeff,
crazy
does your
scary.
TikTok know you better than you know yourself?
Absolutely. It's actually scary. I feel like I'll be scrolling through and I'll be like, why is this video on my For You page? It's perfect. It's literally perfect for me.
It knows what you're thinking.
Yeah, it's scary.
It knows what you
It's
want to
listening.
think.
It's listening.
It knows what you've been
Scary.
thinking about. It is everything.
Scary. Build that For You page brick by brick.
Yeah,
100%.
Neuralink's already happened somehow. It's TikTok. It's way ahead of the game. But it knows you. It knows you really well. And people have learned how to train it, which means that you're building that For You page brick by brick, right? If you want to for yourself. But what does that do? It takes away the selection from the viewer. It takes away one of the key pieces, really. And this sort of makes sense. Think about it. How many times have you sat down to watch Netflix, spent ages and ages scrolling through endless films and shows and decided that there's nothing to watch?
I can say
the same
it.
as opening a fridge full of food and deciding there's just nothing to eat. We fall victim to analysis paralysis. The average person makes, believe it or not, 35,000 remotely conscious decisions a day. So having your content picked for you just takes away another one of those.
It just makes it easier.
You're then consuming subconsciously, staying on the app for longer, which generates the platform way more money. If I was to ask you, what is your average screen time on TikTok every day?
Oh God, I actually don't want to know. I've set a time limit now. I've set a time limit,
And you just
because I was
ignore the time
spending-
limit. Let's
I
be
ignore the
honest.
time. What's my job? This
It's your
content
job.
is my job, which is a show.
It's
not a
dangerous,
shame, I love
that.
it.
No, but it's
Love it.
dangerous.
Not for nothing, I will actually show. Let's go. Let's check my digital well-being real quick, shall we? Like, let's go daily. I'm maybe on for an hour a day, 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at night. So technically, it's not bad. And then for 7 days total, 7 hours, it's not too bad on TikTok.
Dangerous. When it's your job, you've got an excuse to be on it all the
Suddenly
time.
everything's research.
It's all research, all R&D.
Yeah.
My wife Millie literally has turned off her screen time because she's just not having it anymore. She doesn't want to be like hounded by Apple to tell her shame.
You're spending
to get
too
off
much
TikTok.
time.
Anyway, but look, this platform, this algorithm, as we know, it works so well for TikTok that YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, everyone made their own version of the FYP. It's a win-win for everyone, right? Well, arguably, but also wrong. It's bad for creators. Why? Because discoverability is now the game. It's now way easier than ever before to blow up a small channel and gain millions of followers and views, but it's harder for those followers to stick. Now look, I know what you're saying. That sounds amazing for creators. Well, the small guy can battle with the big guy. And I think in that sense, for sure, someone in their bedroom working from just their phone can build an audience of millions of people. Maybe they don't follow your content, but will see it every day because they love it and they engage with it consistently. But that right there is really the problem. Whilst it's amazing from a creativity standpoint, And I'm actually a huge fan of it. As I said, from a macro perspective, it's really good. Lowering the barrier to entry saturates the market and only makes it harder for creators to actually sustain and build something long term. There's just so much good content now, right? There's content everywhere.
There's content
and there's so much
everywhere.
content that's well worthy of a follow.
It doesn't matter if you're subbed to this channel, by the way. If you haven't subbed, make sure you sub. Doesn't matter if it's this channel or a different channel. Like, content is just out there. It is out there 24/7.
So I bet you do. I bet you hand them out like fun tokens. I bet you follow everything. After
Not
this video,
not
here's
everything.
an experiment. Go on TikTok. See how many people you follow, or Instagram. I bet it's in the hundreds, if not thousands.
I'm in
And
the
if you scroll through
thousands.
that list, how
I'm in
many of those
thousands.
people do you even see on a day-to-day basis? I'd hazard a guess, not many. Is that the case for you?
Yeah, I looked before we record this. I think I'm on something stupid like 1,300 people I follow on TikTok.
I'm on
I
1,500.
couldn't tell you more than maybe 20 of them. I've had to actually name
Yeah.
them. When I'm scrolling for you page, I don't see that I'm actually following many people.
No. If I think about my TikTok or my Instagram now, I follow way more people than I ever see
Mhm.
because the majority of my feed is dictated to by the FYP or I guess, the bringing in of the FYP mechanic into the mainstream algorithm of Instagram, where you're just seeing more and more discovery stuff, right?
Yeah,
So
it feels like
could you imagine if, like, you were looking for small, like, the perfect example I can think of, because I'm part of it, is like the smaller group of people who are putting content out there, or not content, but just stuff, right? And it was just showing you more of that. That algorithm would go crazy.
we've gone full circle back to TV almost. Do you know what I mean? It's a case of
Or not
when you
smaller,
subscribe to
but
TV,
like
you couldn't choose what to watch. It was
just smaller
on
in
there for you,
general,
just
not
had
in
to enjoy
numbers,
it.
but
Whereas that's basically what TikTok and like the For You algorithm become. Right?
It is, but it has become way more around. It's like your TV, if it was perfectly personalized to your interests, your taste, not even in a way that you understand, but in a way of, well, how do I behave? If you dwell on Channel 4 for a little bit longer than Channel 5 or Sky or whatever, it would feed you more Channel 4 than
Yeah,
Channel 5. So it's
exactly.
a perfectly optimized engine of giving you what you want.
Yeah, if we compared our two For You pages, despite the fact we're putting quite similar things, they'd be
Wildly different, and maybe reveal some stuff about each of us we don't want to find out. Maybe. Mine definitely would. But look, if we think of social media engagement as a currency, the value of a follower or subscription is so much lower than it used to be. There's just so much more readily available than ever before. There's content paralysis on another level. More and more people have thousands or even millions of people following them. But the main problem here is, of course, connection, right? If you have saturation of creators, there's so much to choose from. Who can you really connect with? People can
True.
enjoy your content,
Mhm.
but do they really know who you are? Have
Yeah,
you really
they
dwelled with
don't.
them and for enough time? Have
They
they
don't.
invested enough time in you? That's the biggest thing with this, really, in my opinion. And that's where the problem lies. How are you supposed to build a sustainable content career from that? Because even if they're following you, they might not have even seen your content. So how are you going to reach them? You see, there are two main reasons, in my opinion, why the For You algorithm has made it so hard to monetize in the current social media landscape. And once we break these down, you can understand how to get around them and make some money. As we spoke about, it is easier than ever to go viral and gain millions of views a video. But because of that, there's always a new shiny thing for people to go and watch instead. Think about the endless list of creators who had their 15 minutes of fame but are now all but non-existent.
I was
Virality
one of
is a
them,
curse because it is
in a
so
way.
short-lived, and ultimately now you're only as good as your last video. So if you blow up once, it really doesn't mean you'll sustain anything, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a case of if you look through pretty much any creators' channels, the views they vary wildly. It's never a case where someone gets consistent 2, 3, 400K. It'll be one video's on 1.2 million, one's on 100K. Or you've got those new creators that sort of blow up and have their 50 minutes of fame. You look at Hayley Welch, something like that, and well, it's
Yeah,
hard.
literally.
That didn't end very well for her.
No.
But that's the problem, right? It's everyone's trying to monetize in 15 minutes, and there's no real connection there.
Totally. But also, especially when people have blown up on a random thing that's, like she did, it doesn't mean that she's good at making videos necessarily, or she even knows how to be a creator. Most creators who blow up through content have slaved away at trying and trying and trying to get that video that works.
Yep.
And then they get the video that works and they do more of it, and it just becomes a flywheel from there. But ultimately, if you've just blown up out of nowhere or you've had a moment virally, how are you going to sustain that? It's not going to happen.
No, she's essentially a moment rather than an actual creator. If that makes sense.
Totally.
It's a meme. That's just a meme.
But 10 years ago, you would have done, because that moment might have given you a big base of followers, and they would be waiting on your next thing because there was no scarcity. There was a scarcity, of creators and talent. So they'd be waiting on your next move because celebrity culture was way more dominant. Now it's a content culture where people are just waiting for the
Yeah,
next
they were
video,
just
the next
waiting
thing,
for
and they'll forget
everyone else
about
to
you
post
immediately.
something so they
With that,
could
you
go
would
off
have
of
been invited
it.
onto like the Ellen show.
Yeah.
You would have had a whole press run in America,
Yes.
a tour, merch, all that. It just doesn't happen anymore.
Daniel Barogi. Do you know those?
Is that the
Bad Baby.
Oh, okay.
Catch Me
yeah.
Outside.
We haven't heard from her
She's
in
a good
years.
example. She was pre all of this.
Yeah.
And she's still got a huge. I mean, she's obviously a massive OnlyFans creator, I believe, who makes sickening amounts of money.
What? Is
doing
that
sickening
true?
Things. But she was in a previous era. She was on Dr. Phil, blew up, obviously, I'm pretty sure, pre TikTok, pre COVID, pre that time. I'm
Yes, she
pretty sure
did.
she was tiny, right? She was 13, 14, if my memory's right. Now she's like 20, 21, I think. Fact check that. But she blew up in a time when there was a scarcity. So that became a moment. Her viral moment became a thing everyone was talking about.
Yeah.
And it was a thing that stuck for quite a long time. People were memeing it. People were talking about it. It became a thing nowadays. I mean, even that's a good point on memes. Are memes even a thing about viral moments anymore? Not really, because there's just so many viral moments and there's just so many opportunities to meme, and there's no almost cultural moment anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah,
now
I
there
feel the
isn't.
memes used
That's
to be
true.
like weeks, maybe a couple of months if they're really big.
Yeah.
Now, if you miss Twitter for a day,
There's something new.
You're done. You've
You're
missed
finished.
it. You've
Yeah.
missed the whole thing. Think about the most recent one was that the morning routines guy.
I think you have to limit yourself on how much content you're consuming as well. Like, don't be on it 24/7. Limit yourself, but don't overstimulate yourself either.
Yeah.
He was everywhere for
Yeah, Ashton
a
Hall was
day.
everywhere for a
day,
month,
maybe
right?
2 at a push.
Yeah.
Gone.
But think
Yeah.
if that was in 2016, 2017, he would have had probably millions for his brand. It would have blown him up at another level. I mean, he is already big,
Yeah.
and he has blown up even more. But still, what does that mean in this? It doesn't mean as much as it used to. If that had happened then, that would have been a global moment. And now it's a moment that everyone laughs at for a day, but then they're on to the next thing and they're waiting for the next moment or the next thing that's taken over to TikTok, right? Or whatever it might be. So it's funny how the cycle has just gone like that. It used to be quite a long dwell because there was so much scarcity. Now there's saturation. It's like that. And that brings us to the second problem, which is that because there's this cycle that is going on and Discovery is leading the game, FYP is leading the game, you don't own your audience anymore. Because even if you manage to break through
I don't
and
think
keep
you own them
consistently in
anyway,
the
but-
spotlight, even when people follow you, they are far from guaranteed to see each of your posts. Views will fluctuate massively video to video, and you don't have access to your followers in the same way through these social platforms. So how are you supposed to monetize an audience that you can't reach consistently in the same way anymore? Well, for most creators, AdSense is the way that they're going to make their money, right? And that comes from a level of consistency in the views. If your views aren't consistent and you're not hitting a solid audience each and every time, your AdSense will fluctuate massively. And what does that then do to your livelihood if you're relying on that income? On
Yeah,
top of this, you're only a
it's
couple of strikes away from a
being
ban or
dependent on it.
suspension. You're at the mercy of the platforms massively. So how do you work around these two to build a sustainable and profitable career in content? Well, I've got a 3-step plan that we use to help the Sidemen build their incredible empire.
All right, take notes.
And brands
Let's
such
take
as
notes.
Sides, XX Vodka, Side Plus, Best, and all the other things we've been doing. And don't worry, you do not need tens of millions of subs to make this work. A small
Excuse me.
audience could actually, as I said, make you more money. Let me explain. Step 1, define who you are, my friends. Most creators fall into either an entertainer or an educator. You may be somewhere
I'm
along
trying
the
to be
line,
both.
but
I'm trying to
figuring
be
out why
both.
people watch your content will help you work out what they want from you and what they'd be willing to pay for. The majority of viewers won't want to be sold to, especially if you're an entertainment creator. They're on the platform to have a good time, to have fun, to get some vibes, not to learn anything. But trying to hard sell to an entertainment audience might actually do your reputation more harm than it does good to your wallet. A great example of this is Yes Theory. With nearly 10 million subs, they produce epic travel documentaries, which you've probably seen if you're on YouTube. They've also got a mission which is seek discomfort. Really a great message and works super well, I think, on their merch, tapping into their motivational mindset. I know them and their team quite well, and they're brilliant guys, amazing. However, their audience does not follow them to learn how to become content creators themselves. And that's why when they launched a $349 course on storytelling and content creation, they received some backlash, to put it lightly. What happened?
So much of this has been wiped off face of the internet. But essentially what happened is they released a video to their whole audience, a video to the Yes Theory YouTube channel, which is, like we said, it's got 10 million subs, about this content creation course, which was priced relatively high, $350. It's not the most high-end course.
running
Now it
knows.
wouldn't be
Shoot.
considered high though, right?
No, this was a couple of years ago. to
It
be
was
fair.
actually
a couple-
early on the whole like info product stuff. Like today, if they launched that today, no one would bat an eyelid.
No, but I think the main problem was the fact they pushed out to their whole audience, right? The audience don't know them for, well, obviously they're very used to, they've got amazing storytelling, they're great at content creation, but the audience don't come to them for that. They don't come to learn that. They come for the actual videos themselves to be entertained. So that's where they went wrong.
Yeah. The audience on the YouTube
Interesting.
channel was there to be entertained, not educated. 99% of their audience were not interested in the product. But this doesn't mean it's a bad product or even a bad idea. I actually think it was a really good idea and fit their brand quite well. Because if they launched that today and they did all of the things we know how to
They
do
may
on
not
info
have
products,
gotten
right?
it.
You do a wait list, you measure the interest, you don't release the price immediately, you sort of test it, prove it, see who's even interested in the concept, even put out a story and a poll and see who would like an info product from you as a creator if you're in the entertainment camp and people aren't expecting it. Then you get a sense of the audience, how many people are there for it. And if we're talking about filtering, which is super key now, and we know all of this stuff today that we maybe didn't know a few years ago when these guys were really first movers on this stuff. If we're trying to filter, the question is how? You don't need to make a product that fits every single viewer, as this next YouTuber proves. But you first have to learn how to target smaller sections of your audience first. Step 2, capture your audience. As we discussed, you do not own your audience, my friends. I'm sorry to break it to you. Not only is this dangerous, you could fall into the same mistake of yes theory, of targeting your entire fan base and then alienating and angering 99% of them.
True.
You've got to learn how to segment your audience to figure out who's interested in what. A great way of doing this is starting a newsletter. That's the filtering key. This works especially well if you're an educational creator, as you can often provide more value through a newsletter than any other medium. Through this, you can warm people up to the idea of buying a certain product from you. And you know it's only going to those who have signed up, who have opted in to this newsletter for the product that you've got to
So how would that work for smaller people like me? Just curious.
share creatively.
You know?
Exactly like Ali Abdaal did and used to build a $5 million a year business.
I'm not saying I'm trying to do it, but I'm just curious how it would work.
Now, Ali is known as the productivity guy, but the biggest moneymaker in his whole world is Part-Time YouTuber Academy. It's not YouTube videos or brand deals. The course teaches people how to turn YouTube as a side hustle alongside your full-time job and make a full-time income out of it if it goes well, much like Ali did when he was a doctor. It's this experience of actually doing what he's selling that makes the authenticity so high. And despite only a small percentage of his total productivity audience looking to start channels of their own, it still accounts for 54% of his income. And on the entertainment camp, we've got another great example from the Sidemen themselves, who launched Side Plus back in September 2021. Now, when Side Plus launched, the concept was simple. Provide way more of what the Sidemen offer and create a whole universe around that offering so it deepens the relationship with that fan base who sign up and provides basically more of what people love of the boys. So yes, you had content, but you also had meet and greets. You had, BTS as a concept behind the Sidemen Sundays. You had giveaways and so much more. It was a real rounded membership experience, not just content. And when it launched, the reception was amazing. It was really good. $6.99 a month could have gone either way. People could have hated it or thought it was good value. But because the whole team labored extensively to make sure the value and the quality was so
there.
high,
Yep.
people really loved it. And actually, it hardly got any backlash at all. Yes, there were a couple of people on Twitter, but really, the point we knew that it landed was other fans were defending the price and the product in the comment section on Twitter as well. But look, these are two big examples. But you don't even need that. The reality is, if you have a brand that is tailored around a specific niche or you're an expert in what you do, you can actually have a way more commercial brand with a small audience than you probably think you can. Now, if you're an expert in your field, especially as an educational creator, you can build
not an expert in anything at the
commercial
moment.
brand. And there's a few ways to do this. It doesn't have to just be a course. One way, of course, yes, is info products, but also brand deals and targeting brands in your content itself. Let's say you're a photographer and you talk about the best cameras, the best editing tools, the best AI products to help enhance your photos, whatever it might be. If you shout out those brands and you make a clear effort to include those brands in your content, you stand a way higher chance of commercializing with those very brands. You can even tag them in your content. They will probably see it. That's one sure way to make sure that your brand is commercial from the get-go. Broader general entertainment creators actually struggle with brands sometimes because they don't know where and how to connect in. So if you have a clear niche, a clear lane, you're going to actually stand a really high chance from my experience. So if we think about it, who often sponsors the big entertainment creators? It's the NordVPNs, it's the Raid Shadow Legends, it's the
Cash
big,
App.
broad, general brands that are trying to appeal to a big demographic. But often those are few and far between. And actually for the bigger deals, you want more targeted focus audiences, which you might have already. Because your audience is much more likely to convert to sales for them, and they'll pay a premium for that. But whether you're promoting a product or selling your own, you won't get anywhere without making sure it's actually good. And we learned this the hard way with the Sidemen and Sides. So step 3, provide what they actually want and make it really, really good. Look, when we launched Sides, we had at its peak 100 ghost kitchens, and we were struggling, honestly, to maintain quality. Partly because the incentive structure wasn't really there with the restaurants themselves. Many just didn't care about the brand as we did because they were hiding behind the brand, right? They didn't have the reputational risk, but also because at that level of scale, quality control gets hard, even when you own all of the stores and you have total supply chain control.
If
So
you're like, it's trying to keep consistency, right? I think is what it is. Like, if you're trying to keep consistency all around and make sure it stays that way throughout all the sides, restaurants, or stores, right? You're trying to make sure it doesn't change when you're like, let's say, in one location to another, or these two are the same. Oh, but these two are different from this one. It's trying to make sure that everyone's getting the same taste, feel, the atmosphere kind of thing. It's all consistency.
it was really difficult, right? It was hard to make sure the quality was kept up. And we saw some backlash coming through around the products, especially on social and with the Sidemen, where you're going to see every single complaint. So what did we do? Well, we had to pivot and we actually shut down all 100 of our ghost kitchens
Wow.
and moved fully into physical stores. And I tell you this, it was a night and day difference. Sentiment for the brand rose considerably. People now to this day love the product. They're obsessed with it. And you can tell that that is because we made a decision to focus on quality over quantity.
Quantity,
and
yeah.
I think if we carried on down the ghost kitchen route, Sides wouldn't be here today. Sides has been made, and I think will flourishes now because quality is at the heart of it. And we know that firsthand. I think this goes for everybody. Focus on quality. Because in reality, if you're a creator and you're trying to build a brand away from yourself, the novelty will wear off pretty quickly that it's yours. Whoever you are, whether you're the Sidemen, whether you're Mr. Beast, whether you're Ryan Trahan, whoever, the novelty will wear off, which means the product and experience has to be elite. Quality over everything, my friends. That's how you win in this age of the dead follower. It's why Mr. Beast shut down Beast Burger, because they couldn't guarantee quality over quantity.
Is
And
that
there's
why
now
they
a-
shut it? Is that the reason why they shut it down? I know it was around for a while, but in some places were able to have the stuff. I don't know if they're still doing it. So is it totally shut down?
whole legal case going on there, which is definitely not ideal, as the Mr. Beast empire could be running out of money. Check-
Interesting. So I mean, it's how everyone says, pertain your content to one thing and then expand out. Don't go expanding to different things, otherwise you're never gonna bring in people or people that are a fan of you or who like watching you if you're all over the place and doing 50 different things rather than focusing on one. But doesn't mean you don't try different things and see who comes to see you and who doesn't, right? So you just try, but you don't over expand either.